Linda.
Oh, Amanda.
Hi, Amanda.
Okay, let me chat her up over
We
here.
turned off. Can you send another chat, Amanda, directly to the Teams meeting? We're turning off the bubble. We don't want it. The one that you sent.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Steve Worthington, and I'm the mayor of University Place. I'm calling this evening's meeting to order for the University Place City Council for July 18th, 2022, and we can start with a roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Keel.
Councilmember Keel present.
Councilmember Wood.
Councilmember Wood present.
Councilmember McCluskey. Councilmember Fleming. Councilmember Belisi.
Councilmember Belisi here.
Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa.
Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa present.
Mayor Worthington.
Mayor Worthington here. And with that, I would like to invite Councilmember Ed Woods to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Woods, thank you. And at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa. I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
This is Councilmember Belisi. I second.
Thank you, Councilmember Belisi. And we have a motion and a second. Are there any objections to the agenda being approved? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as distributed. We'll now move on to presentations, and we have a special presentation this evening. And I think there's a mic down there I'll be able to use, hopefully. Thank you. And I think that's on. Is that on? Yeah, great. So this evening, a little different proclamation, one that is well earned. And I'm very pleased to be able to do this, as I think the council is as well. This evening, I think we have hopefully some of our folks on the screen. But in any case, I'll proceed with the presentation. This is City of University Place proclamation. Whereas the Public Works and Parks employees work diligently every day for the City of University Place, serving the entire city, and whereas the Public Works and Parks team regularly holds safety meetings, review best practices, and determine steps to improve safety while at work, and whereas, as of today, it has been 366 days of working without a time loss incident, and whereas this has exceeded the previous record of working 321 days without a time loss incident, and now, therefore, the City Council of the City of University Place wishes to extend its congratulations and sincere appreciation to all members of the Public Works and Parks Department for their dedication, hard work, and achievements, proclaimed this day by the City Council of the City of University Place, July 18th, 2022. And so to our Parks team, just well done. Over a year without a time loss incident, that's really quite an achievement, and it shows, I think, good leadership and good employees. And I wanted to thank Jack, you and your team, and appreciate their hard efforts. Maybe Tony, Deborah, and the other folks are there as well. But in any case, thank you, and may we be able to do this again next year about this time too, only twice as long. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you don't mind, I'd like to just add a few words. This really is a great achievement, especially when you take into consideration how low our staffing levels are for both streets and parks maintenance, and that's a little bit of a preview of things to come for later in the agenda for parks. But the fact that we're spread so thin, and we do an amazing amount of work with that amount of staffing, and then we're able to do this without cutting corners for safety, is a true testament to the quality and work ethic of all the men and women on our crew. And so I also would like to express my appreciation to the crew for this great achievement, and keep up the good and safe work out there.
Very good. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Well done for your crews. With that, we're going to move on to public comment, and let me read our procedures here. That's always a point of of interest. So we take comment in several different ways. We do it via people being in the room. That's fairly straightforward. We do have a sign-up sheet, and we ask folks to sign up. Several people have signed up to give comment on one of the issues later on this evening, which is the consideration of a potential levy the City Council will be voting on. Your comments were best placed at the time that issue's in front of us as opposed to now during public comments. So if you have another comment you would like to make and you're in person, you're welcome to do that now. Also, if you're online and you wish to make a comment, we have the procedure to do that, which is basically raise your hand. The instructions are on the screen. We'll recognize you. We'll use the last 2 digits of your phone number or the name if it's displayed to help identify you, and you use you take yourself off of mute. We also have a process by which you can call in telephonically or just with a phone, and you may use that process as well. That number is 509-342-7253, and you enter conference ID 158-511-610#. That's, there's also, you get to use a raise hand feature there by pressing *5. And we'll again use the last 4 digits to help identify you. You press *6 to unmute. We'll use that same process later on this evening for all 3 types of comments. And at this point, do we have anyone in the audience or anyone online that would like to make comment to the City Council on an item that is not on our agenda this evening? Anyone? I don't see anyone here. Do we see anyone online? Oh, we're good there? All right. Well, then we'll move past our public comments and on to the next portion of our agenda. And that's our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
This is Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And is there a second for the approval of the consent agenda?
Councilmember Belisi, I second.
Thank you very much. We have the motion. It's proper. And do we have any objections to the consent agenda being approved? Are there any objections? I don't see any objections. The consent agenda is approved. That brings us to our public safety levy. And we have, that's coming up next. Chief Primo will be providing us with some information. And following that, we will take public comment, and then we'll enter into council discussion. Chief Primo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'm going to start with just a recap of kind of where we're at as far as the levy and our public safety education and outreach that we've conducted over the last several months. Last Thursday, we conducted our final public safety listening session forum here in Council Chambers. And gathered all the feedback from community during that time. As you all know, back in January, during your goals retreat, you identified public safety as your #1 goal for the 23-24 years, and instructed staff to start that outreach and research with the community regarding their ideas around public safety. During that time, we developed a chart with, I think they're going to share that up there, with some options for some staffing increases. And during those conversations, we developed multiple options, and you'll see under option B+, that is my recommendation as your chief as to the staffing increases for the City of University Place. When we developed this staffing model, I think there's 3 areas to focus on. The first would be around investigations improvement. The next is uniformed personnel, and then last is this community support from the police department. From that option B+, what we are gaining are 2 additional positions in our investigations. Right now we only have 1 lone investigator. In the uniformed area, we're going to go up to 6 officers assigned to each shift, and what that will allow us to have is a minimum staffing of 3 officers out on the street compared to our current 2 that we are staffed with. In addition to that, we will be adding traffic enforcement officers. Currently, we do not have any traffic enforcement officers. And also, to finish it off in that support area, we identified the position of community outreach officer. That's what we're titling it at this point. This is a limited commission a civilian employee that will serve as our primary crime prevention officer to work with businesses, homeowners, apartment complexes, to help with education around crime prevention. Specifically, as you all know, property crimes is our biggest challenge. And so that's what this position is tasked with, working with that element, as well as conducting some proactive outreach with people that are, what we might say, suffering in some sort of crisis, whether it's homelessness or even mental health issues out on the streets, that this officer would have access and knowledge around what community resources are available that they can help coordinate and refer these people to. So that would be a valuable position within our agency to help reduce some of those calls that are being sent to our patrol officers, that we could have a more appropriate level of response from the city to try and address those types of calls. So as you can see, option B plus is the recommendation from us. And at this time, I will go ahead and turn it back over to council.
Very good, Chief. Thank you. We have had, as you pointed out, 3 or perhaps 4 listening sessions, and I've had a good deal of public interest in this. Polling we've done has indicated that the public is keenly interested in this as well, and the City Council recently has set this, or technically, moments ago set this as its number 1 priority in terms of public safety. In the council consent agenda, there was the approval of our goals for the next 2 years. Number 1 was public safety. At this time, we can take, we want to take further public comment, and in a moment, I'll call for people to make comment here in the room. Before we do that, I'd like to get the instructions one more time up on the screen. And if folks are online, they can see how to do that as well. And there's those instructions. So again, we can do it via computer. Staff will be keeping an eye on that to help me identify those folks. You can do it by phone. And those are the instructions on the phone number, which is 509-342-7253, meeting ID 158-511-610#, and follow the instructions and raise hand feature. So let's leave that up for a moment, and then I'll invite people in our audience up, and I believe the first person to sign up on this issue was Mr. Steve Brokerich. If you'd like to come forward, and you have 3 minutes of our time, and is that mic live? Okay.
I pressed it. Did that do something?
Yep.
Just turns it on.
My 3 minutes start now?
Whenever you'd like, sir. Yeah.
All right. First of all, I want to thank Eric and Emmy for their professionalism as employees. I had a lot of contact with the both of them during these proceedings, and I couldn't have asked for a better interaction from individuals. So you should be very proud of the 2 of them. As far as background goes, I've been to 3 listening sessions and 1 virtual council meeting. That was on 7/5. Location, location, location. That's the key to business success. Visibility, visibility, visibility is the key to successful policing. Chief Primo used this term in several of the meetings. Many of the materials and handouts you sent out focused on the idea of visibility. The UP website under Police Department states, quote, "The prevention of crimes is the primary focus and goal of the University Place Police. Crime goes down when bad guys see law enforcement. They go where the pickings are easier." So then I guess my question is, and I saw the more recent chart, but when I saw it before, between 16 and 20% or up to 40%, depending on the final count of potential new hires, are not in uniform, not fully commissioned, and not riding in marked patrol cars. I don't need someone issuing tickets or doing other things when I can have someone out in the community. Welfare checks take time. I realize that. Yes, but they also create visibility for the citizens and for the bad guys. Who knows? It might be depending on the area of the city,
one of the only times or recent time where someone has been there. I'm driving down the road. I look in my rearview mirror and I see a police car. What's the first thing I do, and maybe many of you? You look at your speedometers. Is it possible that I'm speeding, and why is that? It's an element of visibility. You saw that police car behind you and there was a momentary gulp. Okay, what's up? Also, responding with flashing lights, say to a stalled car on the side of the road, visibility. Again, those are only some examples. The chief recently opined that it might be a year for 3 years over the next 34 months before you fully staff all of these. He also talked about renting overtime hires from other jurisdictions. I know you want to build a nest egg to ensure sufficient funds as costs rise for the new employees over the next decade or so, but how much is enough? I believe the community would get more bang for their buck and you create better visibility if you fill in for the new 3 officers who likely won't hit the street till October of next year with temporary help. That 3 already? My goodness. All right.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you understanding the clock. But yes, and thank you for your comments. Appreciate
Well,
that
it was
as well.
2 minutes when I read it at home.
It happens that way. We then have Scott Booth as our next person who signed up.
Need to turn it on. Your mic is not on.
Oh, I turned it off. There we go. Let me start again. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is Scott Booth. I've been a resident of University Place for just under 25 years, and I want to speak in favor of you putting the levy to the voters. I've also have been to one of the listening sessions, and there were a couple of key metrics that really spoke to me. First and foremost, Chief Primo explained that between 2021 and 2022, we've had a nearly 30% increase in property crime. And I don't think that's anecdotal or by accident. I think it's a direct result of the lack of staffing that's been on our streets. He also shared that since 2009, we all remember the recession, there's only been 1 additional staff member added to the police force. I really related to and appreciated the comments that were made during the last listening session by a lot of the folks present about how wonderful this community is, and I completely agree. But I fear that if we don't do something about improving public safety, it will no longer continue to be a great community. And I think that really impacts the experience that we would all enjoy here. I really appreciated Steve's comments because I think he made an excellent case for more police officers, honestly. That's what I was hearing, and he very eloquently explained that position of the need for visibility and more officers on the street. So I just want to remind everyone that's going to speak before the council this evening that your vote to put the levy on the ballot is not an approval of the levy, right? And I think it would be remiss if you didn't give the voters the opportunity to decide if we want to reinforce our law enforcement presence in this community. So I don't even know if I need 3 minutes. I think I'm good. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Booth. Appreciate your comments, too. Is there anyone else? Let's see, I think that's the names that I have that have been on sign-up sheets. Then if you'd like to come up, we'd be happy to hear your comments as well.
Good evening, Council. Good to see a full contingent here tonight. It's been a while. My name is Dennis Flan. I live at 2623 Lemons Beach Road. Property taxes have become the easy go-to for tax revenues. Equity in collection based on values alone does not work, especially in the case of apartments. The value of the structure and the land may be taxed at the same rate, but is not broken down to the cost per unit and square footage of each. This should be studied to verify equity when compared to single-family dwelling and taxation. Statements like "strike while the iron is hot" seem inappropriate and seem an attempt to capitalize on anxiety that social unrest and crime have spawned. Calling for Premier Services carte blanche might be an overreach when groceries and gas are going for a premium. Sensible and what's financially prudent for UP taxpayers must be a part of the final draft. With the added apartment residents, more services and amenities of all kinds will be on the table, let alone increased fire services, education expenses, and pressure for more parks. The failed 75 cents per thousand Parks and Rec levy might be back along with funding a new community center, adding more tax load. The new franchise fees, 6% utility tax, and this latest ask all point to a phrase I heard in this chamber. I don't think this council has ever met a tax it did not like. My own personal property went up $150,000 thanks to our friends in Pierce County, and I'm sure many people across the board have got the same feeling. I don't feel wealthier because I know my pocket will be picked. So thank you for my time.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Appreciate hearing your comments as well. Anyone else who would like to make comment this evening on this issue? Anyone else to comment about the consideration of the levy? Oh, one take. But all right. Well, very good. I think we're going to. Is there anybody online? Okay. And I assume that goes for phone calls as well. With that in mind, we're going to move on to the council consideration for this issue. So as was stated earlier, this resolution would, or just to be clear, this resolution would submit to Pierce County elections a ballot measure. In the course of the ballot measure, it would be up to the citizens of the voters of this community to approve that or not. And the ballot measure will stipulate a certain value, a certain cost associated with it. The chief has translated that into officers as the best way for all of us to think about it, I suppose, but ultimately it's a dollar figure that gets assigned. We're going to be using our speaking order chart this evening, and it's in the packet. Yep. I'm just trying to remember, it's in the front of the packet. But I know that in that order chart, Councilmember Keel starts us off with that.
You want to pass?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I want to. That's a good point. So, to start us off, I should say, is there a motion to consider this resolution?
Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa. I make a motion for council action to adopt a resolution authorizing a levy lift be placed on the November 2022 general election ballot for support of law enforcement services, and the recommended option B+.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
This is Councilmember Belisi. I second.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember. So we have a motion and a second, and now it's time for a discussion, and thank you for make sure we have that in order. There, I will turn to Councilmember Keel, and we will start our discussion.
Great, thank you, Mayor. I always like to be first, but in this instance, maybe not so much. But I do thank staff for the work that you've done over these past few months in preparing something for us to, as a council, to understand and react to. Information was very good. I think it was very thorough. I had many questions throughout this process, and people were very forthright with bringing the information forward. Even as late as tonight, where I needed a graph, and it was brought to me just a few moments ago. So I really appreciate all of that. I hear the comments from the community on both sides of this issue, and as a member, I struggle with that. I mean, because my house is here, my assessed value went up over $100,000. You know, I pay the tax like everyone else, so I understand what people are talking about. The thing, though, is that I've been in this community for 35 years. And for 11 of those years, I was an elected member of our school board. And the schools are fantastic, in my opinion, and they still are. And I know that they're recognized around the state as being fantastic. Our students in that school district outperform other students in the state head and shoulders. We've done it consistently. And the reason why I believe they've done it as a director there and seeing how things were run is because we had the resources to do it. We could pay the teachers, we could buy their materials, we could do all the things that we needed to do to make good things happen. And there they have consistently passed bonds and levies to support that. I mean, this community understands, I believe, what it takes to be excellent. You have to have the resources. And in the case coming over here to the city, I don't see that. I mean, we have one thing that we're with property tax, and it's been for public safety. And when I look at this dollar bill, I mean, this is very telling. I mean, we've all seen it. You know, it's when you look at every dollar that we pay in our property tax, 6 pennies. 6 pennies comes to the city and all of that goes to public safety. I love my house, I love my schools, but if I'm not safe, it's all for nothing. It's all for nothing. I mean, I love my house. I love keeping my money in my pocket, but for $22 more to be safer, I mean, and I'm not speaking as a council member now. I'm speaking as a citizen that pays the tax. I would do that. And I think that it is important for me as a council member to pose the question to my citizens, my fellow-on citizens. Not that we're doing it, we're putting it out there to say, do you all want to do it? And if the majority says yes, then that's what that's how a republic works. It works like that. You put it out there and people look at it and then people vote. And if they vote it down, then we won't have it. If they vote for it, then we will. So I don't like, you know, the prices going up, but for this item, I see the importance, and I'm in favor of putting it before the voters so they could tell us what they want. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember Keel. Councilmember Wood, do you have comments?
I do. Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd also like to thank staff and police chief for the hard work in putting all this together, coordinating for the survey so that we had actual really good data to help drive any decisions that are made today. I'd also like to thank everybody who made public comment today, both for and against. Your arguments are all good arguments. As Councilmember Keel pointed out, all our houses went up. I got that little green card in the mail 2 weeks ago, just like everybody else. And so I understand the pain this could cause, but at the same time, I look at it as if it's $22 a month and we go with option B+, that's the price of, you know, lunch for two at a fast food place. And that's actually not that bad at all in that regard. So I campaigned for this office last year. I'm new on the council, and what I did is I went door to door, and I probably talked to 1,500 of our fellow citizens, and the number one issue that people talked about was public safety. It was either traffic and traffic enforcement or property crime. Those are the issues that came up to me every time I was talking to people. And this is our opportunity as a council and as a city to give the voters the choice to improve their public safety, improve their traffic enforcement. And actually have a choice and a voice in this decision. So I am fully in favor of this, of sending this to the voters. I'd also like to point out, because it hasn't been discussed as much over time, but if people aren't paying attention, our population is growing here in University Place. I'm not sure exactly what it was in 2009, but I think it was around 30,000 people, maybe a little less. I believe the latest population figure for University Place just crossed 35,000. We are policing 5,000 more people with about half of what we had, or I think it was 9 less officers than we had in 2009. Our population is going to continue to grow. Some of the projections push us up closer to 45,000, 50,000 by the year 2045. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But I know we can't police that kind of population under our current staffing levels. So again, for those reasons, I want to push this to the voters. That concludes my comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments, Councilmember Wood. Councilmember McCluskey, do you wish to make comment?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This is quite the consideration tonight, because putting this on the ballot is not free. It's cost $75,000 to do so. So we really have to ensure that we're doing the right thing, putting this to the vote for our citizens to make their choice in the matter. We had a top-rate consultant coming through to also verify the data and see is it the right time? Because I don't want to have go out and then look really foolish and have it tank like it did the last time pretty dramatically. If it doesn't pass, that's how it goes. And I will follow suit along those lines as well. But I do believe that it is the right to have the people vote on this, whether to have a levy lid lift on their taxes. I think it's not going to be an easy vote for anybody because we have rise in cost of living expenses, and gas is up quite a bit, which increases all the cost of living expenses as well. So people are feeling the pressure. I listened to all the forums that we had, and they were I loved all the intelligent questions that our citizens posed at all the forums. I thought really hard about each and every comment because that's really important to me. I thought the staff did a very equitable and great job in presenting their cases. And from what I heard from Mr. Steve there, he also had a lot of follow-up discussions. So I'm quite pleased to hear that too. And also, Mr. Flan had the same experience as well. So we are, even with B+, we're still not at our staffing levels for 2009. So we really need to hopefully do something in order to ensure that our city is safe. We have put a lot of millions of dollars into our infrastructure, our parks, the city center, our streets, our sidewalks, and I would like to be ensured that there is proper, as Mr. Steve pointed out, visibility, because I think visibility is extremely important in keeping crime down, as well as follow-up and follow-through. So that is why our chief has decided to uptick to 2 investigators to keep up with the 40% increase in crime. Heard speeding, property crime, from the people that I have in my community and groups have expressed their concerns about. And if we don't do something about that now, then all that is just going to exasperate and increase. We don't live in a bubble. We are bookending with Lakewood and Tacoma. And a lot of our crime is coming into our city. And so we need to have this strong message that you can't do the crime in our city without having to pay for it. The other concern that I had is that when I posed the question, how much do you want to pay for having this increased public safety? That's probably the question that I see this ballot measure will answer for me. Everybody that I talk to is certainly for more presence, more public safety, more police officers, because they're starting not to feel as secure as they had 20, 25 years ago. And so we want to get back to that nice, sweet spot again where we do feel safe in our communities. Our schools are safer as well, because there's issues in our schools as well, that we need that school resource officer desperately reinstated. I work in the schools, so I know. And so with all those things that are going through my mind, I am going to be voting in favor of the levy, because I know everyone would like more public safety. They see the need out there, but I want to know, are they willing to pay for it? And this proposal that we have on the dais now is for B+, and which is an interesting compromise from the B and the C. And I like the B+ because it's closer to the B than the C. The C I thought was a little bit out there, but we do still keep an increase in patrol. And Chief, I would encourage you to put our officers in uniform as much as possible for a police presence. And also the community outreach officer as well. So it's a distinctive look. So when you are out there on the street, no matter what capacity, our citizens will know that there is a strong presence and visibility, because I do believe, since I worked retail many, many years ago, when you do have visibility, you do have less robberies and burglaries as well. So I'll end my comments there.
Thank you, Councilmember. Appreciate that. Councilmember Fleming.
Got to hit speak.
Okay, then you wait till it turns red.
There we go. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, to Councilmember Keel's point, he gets to lead off and the rest of us get to follow and almost back cleanup. So it's kind of good when we're down at this end. You know, I want to echo many of the sentiments that the council members before me spoke have shared. And most important, I just want to thank the chief and Jennifer over here for the briefings that I got and the information. Because one of the things I ran on when I first ran for election was public safety. It's always been near and dear to my heart. I love and I respect what our officers do for our community every day. You couldn't pay me enough money to get out there on the street, especially in this environment, and do what those officers are doing. But, you know, when I think back on how the city has evolved, the comment made earlier about the growth of the community, we're a growing city. We're not, contrary to some people's belief, a bedroom community of some other city that may be nearby us. We really are a city in and of ourselves. And we are growing, although our police force has not had that opportunity to do so. You know, back in 1995, when we put officers on the street, it cost us about $100,000 per officer to put on the street. You know, so it's important to understand when we are looking at levies and we're looking at what does it cost to really have our law enforcement presence in the community, the cost. And, you know, it doesn't take a lot to figure out that over the years costs have gone up, and certainly the cost of putting an officer out there today certainly has gone up significantly for that. You know, I think the comments that our speakers, Steve, Scott, and Dennis made are all pertinent, they're important, and we certainly need to take heed of those. But the one that really resonates with me the most is, Scott, what you said about let the citizens decide this. No, this is a request not of the council, although the council has adopted it as our priority. It really is a request from the community, and so as such, it's the community that has the right to ultimately decide. You know, do we want to put another tax out there on ourselves to make our citizens feel safe? I am not a big tax guy. And for those who've known me around for the years, I'm not wild and crazy about taxes. But I'll tell you, the one tax I've gotten behind over the past years was putting 911 into place when we voted on that as electeds. But this is another tax, I know, for law enforcement and for safety that I think is certainly going to benefit this community as time goes on. So, yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow for some, especially because, you know, people say, well, timing's everything, and there's never a good time, especially when we're looking at inflation and we're looking at higher fuel and food, along with a lot of higher costs for other things. But I think we just need to take a step back just for a moment and say, you know, what is the cost of a life in our community? What is the cost to ensure our properties are safe? I personally don't have any love lost for criminals and would like to get those folks out or keep them out of our community. So, you know, in the end and kind of in summary, people deserve and have a right to feel safe in the community, no matter where you live, you know, whether you're in residential or multifamily or whatever, people have a right to be safe in our community. So with that, I would ask, you know, citizens to really give this one some serious consideration. A lot of work has gone into it, not just by staff, but a lot of work has gone into it by citizens also. So we're all in this together. It's not a we versus they. It's not the city versus the community. It's not the council versus the community. It really is the community asking itself the question, what does it really want? And at the end of the day, it really is the citizens who have the right to say, yes, we want to do this, or no, we don't, not the council to decide. So with that said, I really want to move this forward and put it on the ballot and let the people ultimately decide. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Fleming and Councilmember Belisi.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to say thank you to all the citizens that participated on the initial survey that provided us with the basis for this endeavor. I want to thank the citizens, the business community, and all stakeholders in our community that helped to frame this levy. Without your input, both positive and negative, we would not have the proposal that we have before us. Taxes have always been an issue. I know when I came on board on the council in 2010, it was right after we had cut our fantastic police force by a third. And ever since that time, we on this council have struggled to try and find a way to add police officers to our force. And we want to do it in such a way that we have ongoing funding for an officer. It's very unfair to the community as well as to the officer to fund them 1 year, and next year we don't have the funding and we have to cut officers. And we have not had long-range, sustainable funding that would allow us to add other than one officer to our police force since 2010. That tells you that this has been a priority with our council since I started in 2010, and we have now come to the point where we've increased our community by over 5,000 residents. And that is not all apartment dwellers, that is homeowners that have come into this community. And we have added apartments, of course, in the last couple of years. Every property owner, including renters, will pay this tax. It is not a free tax. But along with my fellow council members, it is time for the community to say, when is enough enough? When are we going to step up and make public safety a priority? Public safety costs money. It's not a free item that government provides. So I am hoping that our community values the community that we have and doesn't want to see us go further into a crime situation and wants to have police presence out there to deter any criminals from coming into our community to do bad things in the way of property crime, in the way of speeding, etc. So I am going to support this initiative moving forward and hope that our community will value this and will go to the polls in November in support of it. It is not an initiative that the day after we vote on it, January 1st, that we are going to have all the promised officers, because as everybody is aware, all police departments in our community throughout the country are having a difficult time recruiting. But this provides us with an opportunity to go before Pierce County and say, we have the funding, please make us a priority. And as soon as the academies fill up and we have graduates from those academies, we then, as a contracted agency, have some leverage with Pierce County to ensure that those officers come on board sooner than later. And so hopefully, you know, as things turn around and people realize the value of having police officers in their community and the public safety becomes an issue, we will have more officers that we will be able to pick from sooner rather than later, and that we can get back to where we were in 2009. This is not going to be long-term for any potential future growth, but it will allow our current officers an opportunity not to have to work mandatory overtime just to cover the shifts that we have now. That this will give us an alert police force. It will give us a police force that is able to come to your house when you have a situation that is not considered a top priority, so that you can have a face-to-face conversation with our police officers. This will allow our business community to have face-to-face time with police officers to address the crime that they are experiencing. And that crime costs all of us money, in that our business community, unfortunately, has to raise their prices to cover the losses from criminals that walk off with their merchandise. It costs you as a property owner money when you have to pay increased insurance, because the property crime, both to vehicles and to houses, are rampant throughout the community, not only University Place, but the region. And we need to start addressing it, and hopefully the community is on board with making this a priority also. So I look forward to having this issue on the ballot in November, and I highly recommend a support from our community on it. So I look forward to seeing the outcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Lisi. And that brings me to Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I would start addressing the public first before I address my colleagues at the dais. And that is, I do want to thank especially the public that is at home that participate in our public forums. That was not an easy task, to take the time away from whatever you're doing to attend those meetings. Thank you. That was important for us to hear from you. Thank you for those that have attended the study sessions, and also today that is present here, and those that spoke today. Those are all meaningful. Every one of those action items are meaningful to this council for us to, even though it's a small pulse of our community, certainly it is a pulse of understanding where our community is with wanting to address public safety. That being said, I want to thank the staff, especially the chief and Jennifer, for their tireless efforts to not just do the public meetings and showing up, but most importantly, for all of us, and this council and the public, is going through the information, the research, the analysis required to understand what is at stake for our community, what is at stake for our staff. I'm talking about our public safety force. And because we can't go into this decision either from a council voting today or the public voting for it in the ballot, is information, and correct information is critical for us to say, is this, it has to make sense to the common person. And I think that, Chief, you and Jennifer, you guys really, and the rest of the staff that were involved, you really did a good job in putting it in layman's terms. That was really an important factor in getting people on board to understanding what's in it for them and what's in it for this community, and they might not like the cost. They might not like some of the variations. Nobody's ever going, not one option is going to satisfy everybody 100%. But I believe that options that you provided were flexible, were meaningful, and they served a purpose for us to be able to give it some real consideration. Based on what we're hearing, based on our needs, and especially the safety needs of our community, lies for now our colleagues here to make a decision, and that is the decision to put it before the community. That decision, to me, everybody in this diocese, I'm speaking now to my colleagues, is to make the case why we should vote or not vote for any of these options, and that is that for us to vote for this to go forward, we have to believe, and I do believe, that the information is correct, the information is thorough, and been analyzed and provided to such a way that it does make sense, not just to us or to a professional like the chief, but to the common person that's going to vote on this. Does it make sense for them? I believe that we've passed that measure on what we have before us and what we're presented, what we have presented to the public, and what we're about to provide to them to vote on. To me, that's really critical, and that we're accountable to providing that type of information. Along with that is understanding and saying that it passed muster with the facts, and that is some of it is by it's a no-brainer, meaning 2 officers per shift is anyone, whether you're for spending more money or not more money for public safety, can't disagree that 2 officers per shift doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And that's where I'm at with, do I put this before for people to vote on? Does that really make sense for the average person to understand? And what we're saying to them is that 2 officers per shift does not work. It has to be better, not for just to make the case that we want better, but because of your safety, of our safety. And for example, as the chief said it several times, and that is 2 officers per shift. If you have a domestic violence or something in that category, those 2 officers, for their safety, has to go to that. That means the rest of the 34,000 citizens, or 34,991 citizens that were involved, they don't have an officer available. That isn't right. So, and I'll argue with anybody in this town, one-on-one, that if that makes sense or not. We have to pay. This community has to step up to the plate and pay for the additional officers. We can debate about option B plus or C. The point is we made our best professional, what's being recommended is the best professional recommendation they can come forward based on everything they know. And the reason I say that this community needs to step up, and the only way they can do that is if we offer them this through this vote, is because this is the same community that has passed levy after levy after levy, and I can go another 10 times, for better schools, for premium top schools, for premium top fire district. If you look at that dollar that Councilmember Keel gave, and I'll just have him repeat that, how much per dollar is the schools?
It's 36 cents out of every dollar.
And how much for the fire district?
22 cents.
And ours is 6. Why is it that high? That's the majority of the property taxes that goes towards those 2 services. It's because the community decided they wanted those services at a very top level, premium type services, Class Act services. I believe that this same community should be concerned that our public safety does not meet those standards, and not even close, is below par. And so it's time for this community to step up. Allowing us to vote for this allows us to put you on to be able to step up and make that decision. And if you don't vote for this, and it doesn't pass, and crime continues, because it will, we have population that will continue in our city. It's not going to regress. It will continue, and it will become more transient, as you've seen, for many reasons. People move in and out more than ever before. We will have more crimes. And so I believe that it's time that we catch up with a deficiency that has been plaguing our city and will only get worse. And I think that it's our responsibility to make sure that we have all the appropriate information. We're given the right dollar amount that is the real cost, and without going to, and I appreciated the mayor's comments in that last study session about putting something forward that we believe will pass with the citizens if they really want to, and at an affordable price. And because I had option C, I'm all in for option C, because I think that we need to look at the future. 10 years from now, we're going to be coming back to this community. The cost is there, and I think we should be looking at. But I appreciated the mayor's comments about the cost, where people, our community, most of our citizens may have financial issues, and they're worried about taxes and all that we scale it down. But I think that B plus is a reasonable cost for the bang for the buck that we're getting. And I support this. I hope that my colleagues will support this in bringing it to the community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa. Appreciate your comments as well. And that brings us to, well, a chance for me to give comment in addition. A lot of thanks goes to our community who's been engaged in this. Your activity, your engagement, both in terms of surveys, listening posts, phone calls, making comments pro and con, that all helps. That has all helped our council focus on this, our staff understand different perspectives, and that's, I think, made us look at this issue very hard and very carefully. So I appreciate all that involvement, and I also appreciate the opportunity to hear what's on your mind. Our city staff, from our finance director, our city manager who oversaw this process, the finance director contributed to it, Eric, our assistant city manager as well, all worked very hard, and it's been a very professional effort, not to stir an outcome, but to give an opportunity for folks to be heard and identify the best solutions that are available. Chief, you've done a great job with that, and I appreciate that very much, along with Jennifer and really your team. Occasionally I have the opportunity, the privilege to do a ride-along with our police force, and I did one this last 4th of July. Has been my habit over the last few years. And this one was perhaps a little different. It wasn't as outrageous in fireworks, though it was still outrageous enough. But it was more about some of the other activities that they have on the busiest day of the year. And some of the issues that were there and came close and such. And just the way our police force should respond. First and foremost, I would like to say it is citizen safety, but frankly, first and foremost, it really actually needs to be officer safety first, so that they're in place to be able to handle what's in front of them and help you. And so that does require two people. It does require that we as a community do what we can so that they can come home at night. It requires us to step forward sometimes. And I think that's really what struck me about this. It was the things I just mentioned, and then there was some straightforward data. Our department is as busy as it gets. We have far more calls per officer than most anyone close to us, and just plain anyone close to us in size within the state. We have asked a lot of our officers, and they have delivered everything they can. If we want more, we need to buy more. Now, you may believe or think that let's just shift priorities. And you know, we can always shift priorities. We can always tweak. We can always change a little bit. And maybe we might squeeze out another half an officer out of someplace. But we don't change the situation. What's in front of you is an opportunity to change the situation. And if we pass this, as I believe that we will, then that opportunity that's your decision to make to change our situation. But we can't do that without new resources. It just isn't there, folks. If you happen to stay with the rest of this meeting, you'll hear more about that in another area. We, as council, have to make hard decisions all the time, and we do. And then we've done some hard decisions here, and we do that because that's our role, and we try and reflect the things we hear from you when we do it. So, when you're ready, this fall, perhaps it looks to me like you're going to have an opportunity to make a hard decision as well. And you may need to understand, I hope you will understand, what your dollar buys and why you may want to do that. I know in my particular, in my role here, I have looked at all 4 options. I believe that option B plus is the right one. I did also feel that option C, while a good option, it just cost an increment too much for some of our people, I believe. And so that's why I wasn't in favor of option C. I want you to know too, initially there were only, I think, 2 options. But it's because of your input in the community that we came up with other options to address and fine tune and find the right way to, and really it was the staff and principally the chief, to address different things that he was hearing. So some people wonder why community service officers. The short answer is because they work and they're half the cost of an officer. And that's a round number, but a pretty good approximation. And so you can get a few more hands to help without paying the full meal deal, so to speak. So those are some of our decision points we've did. We don't have those resources to make the level of change that you can make available if you choose the ballot box. I'll be supporting this resolution, as you can probably tell, for option, as proposed as B plus. Again, I want to thank the community, thank our officers, and just work towards them being safe in the work they do to help protect us. With that, we're going to go to a vote, and we'll start with a roll call vote whenever the clerk is ready.
Councilmember Keel.
Aye.
Councilmember Wood.
Councilmember Wood, aye.
Councilmember McCluskey.
Councilmember McCluskey, aye.
Councilmember Fleming. Councilmember Belisi.
Councilmember Belisi, aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa.
Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa, aye.
And Mayor Worthington.
Mayor Worthington, aye.
Motion carries.
Resolution passes, and we'll move on. I understand, Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa, you need to step away from the dais for a few.
After the council comments.
After council comments, excuse me. All right, very good.
I can go first,
Actually, just certainly as a courtesy, and I understand, if you wouldn't mind, just a little bit out of order, Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa will start council comments tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I really do appreciate that. And Council, I'll be leaving for a few minutes, but I'll be back for the study sessions. I do have just a couple of comments, reports, and mostly around the Puget Sound Regional Council. July 13th of last week, Wednesday, we had a what they call the Central District Economic Development Board meeting. And what was brought up in that was I think some information that some of it pertains to us, some of it a little bit, but in the bigger picture, which, as you know, the original council is always about the big picture, is that some of the efforts which I'm about to describe here is about creating jobs. And as you know, that creating jobs will impact us no matter where it is in Pierce County, because people will, and those are good paying jobs, and they will want to come to UP and live. I feel that very strongly. And so one of those, which is a very new program that is being elevated with some serious monies, and that's called the Innovation Cluster Accelerator Program, and it's through the Washington State Department of Commerce. And they actually came and did an update, which is designed to grow key industry clusters in the state, and is to help transform legacy industries into new clusters that will fuel statewide economic growth, jobs. There are 9 organizations that were awarded grants. When I say organizations, different industries, they were awarded grants that each will receive remember, there's 9 of these, will receive up to $500,000 each. That's some serious money. That's just to get them going. With its strategic guidance and support to build and run an innovation cluster in a target industry. The program is supported by a $15 million CARES Act investment, so that CARES Act still going through. It's just like it's the act that doesn't stop giving, but it is supported by $15 million that is invested by the U.S. Economic Development Administration. So that's one. The next one is that I think is critical. We don't have much of it at all, I think, and that is industrial lands update. It is a critical one. I'd assume that staff will be on top of this along with me and to bring to the council's information that pertains to us specifically. But PSRC is in the process of updating the original industrial lands analysis under the guidance of Economic Development District Board, the Growth Management Policy Board, and the Freight Advisory Committee. Those are the ones that are guiding this whole lands analysis. Staff updated the board on the project scope and timeline, a review of local jurisdiction outreach, and there's going to be quite a few workshops throughout the state and in this county for local jurisdictions to go to and understand how that impacts their communities, and the initial data analysis findings. And the last point on this would be on other businesses. We adopted the fiscal years 2022-2023 supplemental budget and work plan. And so the next one would be that, on July the 14th, as I mentioned in the last meeting, the operations, the PSRC operations for the public, Puget Sound Regional Council Operations Committee, which I'm on, was discussing finding a new office space for PSRC. And so there was a on-site tour that I decided it was important for me to go as a new member. And the chair of the Ops Committee, as well as the PSRC chair, and myself, along with Josh Brown, the executive director, and real estate officials for the office building, toured the building. And certainly is a Class A building floor. How they got that price still is amazing. I think some of it has to do because it's on the 5th floor, which is still considered commodity office space. It's not as high as the ones with a view. You look out the window, you have some water view, but mostly buildings. So, and they try to really give a break for those. But the story behind this is that we're bringing this to the Ops Committee. July the 28th is our next Ops Committee and Puget Sound Regional Board Executive Board meeting. And we will be discussing this and approving it to move forward to the Executive Board, which we're asking them to take a vote so they can move on, so we can move on to closing the documents. And finally, on July the 15th, last Friday, I attended, along with Mayor Worthington, Colonel Finison's 16 Caps chain of command ceremony, and I'll let the mayor give the details for that. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Member Tim. We'll see you a little bit later. Now, Councilmember Keel.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to report this evening, surprisingly.
Thank you. Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a couple of comments which I would like to. Some community events. That's part of the joy of being part of this city, is that there's community events. First one of my other duties or things that I do is I'm on the board of the Fort Lewis Military History Museum. And August 6th through 8th, that's a Friday through Sunday, but really Saturday, Sunday, they're doing a living history weekend. It's a bunch of reenactors, a bunch of additional equipment. If that interests you, I strongly encourage you to go attend sometime, either one of those 2 days. And the second thing is the one I'm going to be at, and you'll see me suffering through, but the Twisted Cider 5K. That's actually going to be on my, I hate to admit this, 52nd birthday. And I'm going to go see if I'm still alive that day by going to run the course. I'd encourage my fellow citizens to come out and join me to walk, run, or just go out and have a good time out by Corn Apple Orchard. Thank you.
Very good, Councilmember Wood. Thank you as well. Councilmember McCleskey.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting also on the events, I was at the Teddy Bear Picnic yesterday, and they had probably about 700 plus participants that came through there. A lot of cute teddy bears. The teddy bears got their health check, their dental checks, and there was also a place where it was an educational for ecological, where does our stormwater go, and how what we put in the land, how does that impact the Puget Sound at the end. And the teddy bears got to dance, and there was wonderful music. People brought their picnics out there, and at the end of the day, they really didn't want to leave. The sun finally came out at the end of the day. So they had a great time there. So I was glad to see that pre-COVID, they had great numbers, and so they had a liaison of about 2 years, and the people still came out in force for this. So it was really nice to see everybody out there in the park and enjoying our amenities like they're supposed to be enjoying them. The other comment I would like for my city council, my colleagues, is that the bus rapid transit letter. I am really concerned about some of the contents in that, so I just wanted to put it out there on the dais that we really look at that and make sure that it is the right fit for University Place and is spelled out in that letter. And with that, that's all my comments for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember McCleskey. Excuse me, Councilmember Fleming. There he is. I'm getting there.
You gotta love this mic at this end, but Mr. Mayor, I have nothing tonight to report. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Belisi.
Thank you, Mayor. I just would like to announce the first Music in the Park is this Wednesday evening. Every Wednesday between now and August 31st, there will be music in the square. That's the square outside of City Hall, AKA the library. It'll be from 6 to 8 p.m., so I hope people have it on their calendar and will at least plan on attending all, if not at a minimum, one of those events, and support our local restaurant community by ordering a to-go meal and sitting in the square listening to some fantastic music. I too went to the Teddy Bear Picnic, and I've got to say it is so nice after 2 years that that Dance Theater Northwest and all their supporters were able to make this event go off. The weather was just ideal. I want to thank a major sponsor that's always a sponsor for community events, and that's UP Refuse. Without the support of our local business community and donors, these events would not take place. And it's a wonderful family event, and it was so nice to see all the little kiddos with their teddy bears trying to figure out names and how to participate in the activities. Also, just for the community, to let you know, as a reminder, the U.S. Women's Amateur is going to be at Chambers Bay Properties beginning August 7th through the 14th. While the course will be closed to walkers, the event is open and free to the public. So if you want to go out and support the golfers that are coming from around the world, I understand there's 156 golfers signed up. Come out and welcome these individuals to our community any of the days that the golfing is going out. And walk the course. The amateur is one of those courses, one of those events that is free to the public, and you are allowed to walk along, not directly alongside the golfers, but with a golfer and see how they play the course and get some exercise going up and down hills. I know the mayor and I will be there to welcome golfers at on Sunday the 7th. So we're looking forward to meeting these people from around the world and getting to know a little bit about their backgrounds and participate in the event that way. So mark your calendars, plan on attending. You won't be able to walk your normal trails during this time or use the dog park, but you can come down and like I said, walk the course and see what it's like to be a semi-professional on a difficult course. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Polisi, and I look forward to spending time with you on the 7th and learning about our golfers. That should be a lot of fun, and it is a great distinction for our community, and I think a fun day for all participants as well. We've had a couple of fun activities. Certainly, the Teddy Bear Picnic was one. I didn't attend the full picnic. Someone in my household is the story reader for this, and so I'm more of a roadie than I am an attendee. So I come in, I set up, they do their thing, I come back, tear it down, load up the van, we move on to the next town. So, but in this particular one, I wanted to just certainly echo the thanks to Dance Theater Northwest for their coordinating the activities, and it was fun to see everything I did, and I'm glad the turnout was as large as it was. Excellent. We also had a concert in the park a week ago Thursday, put on by CORE, our group associated with the Kern Apple Orchard. They're enthusiastic, as a matter of fact. But they did a fun concert there, and we have another one coming up this Thursday, starting, I believe, is it at 6:30, yeah, and running until about 8 or so. So if you're toe tapping on Wednesday night here at the Village Square, you can go out and rock at the Orchard Thursday night. So it'll be fun. Let's see, a couple of other things. With regards to the change of command for the 16th Combat Aviation Brigade, I had an invitation, as did the Mayor Pro Tem. It was, went out and participated. We were the only elected officials there. That was very nice of them to include us. And we thought, what a grand event between the inspecting the troops as I guess Colonel Smith came in, and as Colonel Finnison left, and they're inspecting the troops, they'll go by, and then the troops do the march by, the review, they salute the stand, the general is there, the two-star General Smith is there, the base commander. It was just a fun event to be part of, and during the earlier parts of that, we did present to Colonel Finnison the photo that you all signed and the proclamation, and he seemed very appreciative, and certainly was a nice memento, I believe, of our association with them. The new commander, Colonel Smith, at some point, I imagine, will find his way here. Certainly, he has our invitation, and they are still, of course, being active here. They have the soldiers there have helped already with the Veterans Memorial, and I understand they have another project helping with the Veterans Memorial coming up in the next few weeks. I think some flagpoles are about due to be erected. So really appreciate that. I think it's a great way to connect the military service, specifically the 16th Cab, and our community, and it seems to be a winner for all sides. I wanted to mention that our scheduled meeting for August 15th is canceled. I think Council's aware that was on the consent agenda earlier, so we won't be having our regular meeting on the 15th of August. We have that work spread between the other 2 days. There's an opportunity just for us to break the rhythm. In my mind, everyone works hard. Everyone has had issues over COVID, and I don't think that our staff or our members here are any different than anyone else. They deserve a bit of a break when we have that opportunity. The 15th, we're going to skip that meeting and have a little break in the rhythm, but our city work will be done as it needs to be. And I think it's a way to thank the staff for the work that they have helped us through the last 2.5 years. The other things I wanted to mention were earlier this evening, we passed the resolution setting the election. Now there's an opportunity for folks that may want to be making a pro statement or a con statement in the upcoming election. We're looking for people to do that. There's going to be notices on our social media, on the city website starting about tomorrow. And if you have an interest, please let us know. There's a committee that is formed that will see that we have good representation to participate in that committee on both sides of that issue. Gosh, I think that's what I have. Mr. Sugg, I really didn't mean to skip by you, but we did mix our order up a little bit.
Quite all right, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. 2 quick items. Chambers Creek Road, a federally funded project, is out to bid. Curbs, gutters, and sidewalks, bike lanes, street lights, landscaping, and a signalized crosswalk included. The limits of the project are Bridgeport to Charles Wright Academy, and that's a project that we've been looking forward to for many years. And thanks to the federal funds that became available to us and our engineering team that secured the funds, brought the money in, brought those funds in-house, designed it in-house, and then put it out to bid. So we're very, very pleased. Jack Eklund and his engineering team, once again, delivering on all fronts. And we'll be bringing that bid back to you hopefully for a bid award recommendation, but let's take a look and see what those bids look like. And then secondly, we are also out to bid with the Homestead Park redevelopment project or improvement project. We're all excited about those improvements the council got to see, and and we appreciate the council feedback and on the improvements in the design. We think it's an exciting project for really the central park of our downtown. And it's going to be, I think, something the community is going to really enjoy in the future. But let's first get the bids in and see what those look like, bring that forward to the council for hopefully for award, and then we're off to the races and get this thing constructed. So those are my 2 reports.
Very good. Thank you for the reports. Glad to hear of our progress in two of our important projects that are out there. With that, we're going to move on with the agenda, talking to our Citizen Advisory Committee, or Commission reports, and starting, I believe, with Mr. Boykin and the Planning Commission. If he's still there, I know we're a little behind schedule, but hopefully he's hanging with us here. And if not, I may change the batting order. So, and see if he does.
Oh, please don't.
All right. Good.
Please don't. My apologies. Thank you for joining. Absolutely. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was saying thank you for joining us. We're glad to, wanted to check in with you as our planning co-chair and our vice chair, and wanted to just hear some of the things that you have going on and see what questions you may have and such.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to have the opportunity to share tonight. Let me just for record share with folks that my name is Frank Boykin. I'm the co-chair of your Planning Commission. Very excited about that. And tonight, on behalf of your Planning Commission, which includes Commissioner Polson, Commissioner Peters, Commissioner Foster, Co-Vice Chair McKenzie, and of course our Chair, David Graybill, I really am delighted to share brief remarks and report of our work in service to you, certainly in service to our council and the residents of the city of University Place. And so again, thank you so much for that. I'll remind you that that first we had the charge of the 2022 preliminary work plan, which identified really 3 areas of emphasis to include traditional code review, the Northeast Business District Plan, and the Housing Action Tool implementation. And so with that, I'll just sort of give you an overview in terms of each of those areas of where we were and why, and what essentially we are now with in terms of summary. So with code review, first area of emphasis, the Planning Commission would review the municipal code and make recommendations for amendments, not so surprisingly. But following the amendments, specifically as it impacted additional consideration for the form-based codes and combined design standards, staff had identified some inconsistencies in the code for us to continue to grapple with. For example, the parking requirements table included some uses that are no longer permitted, and conversely, did not include requirements for some uses that are now permitted. As it related to our next area of emphasis, the Northwest Business Plan District, the Planning Commission began its development of that effort in 2021. Our work was put on hold to consider zoning text amendments to facilitate the development of the 27th Street landing project and hire a consultant with funds requested by the Planning Commission and approved by the City Council. So again, thank you so much during the budget adjustment process. Now, the Northeast Business District Plan, as you all very well know, is the first of 3 district plans being developed to implement the University Place Regional Growth Center sub-area plan. And our third area of emphasis or contribution, if you will, is in regard to the Housing Action Toolkit implementation. Now, the Housing Action Toolkit recommends several actions to be taken in the next 1 to 2 years, essentially, after adoption. These include, but are, let's say, not limited to improving small lot development standards, updating accessory dwelling unit regulations to incentivize use, review of some parking standards, and so forth. Some short plat considerations are also part of that effort. When I looked more closely at the things that I know we've begun to identify, it's along the lines of whether or not there could be a SEPA exemption levels for minor new construction, and of course SEPA exemptions for infill development to consider. There may be grant funding made available to support these efforts. So in summary, the Planning Commission has made a recommendation to City Council for zoning code text amendments to help facilitate the redevelopment, I should say, of the HAP Boston commercial site. Also earlier in the year, our commission made recommendations to the council for some cleanup amendments regarding, again, form-based code. And those amendments are currently, of course, being considered. And we are currently studying the implementation of the Housing Action Toolkit. And so 7 action items are being discussed, including raising SEPA exemption levels, as I mentioned, for minor construction, allowing administrative approval of final plats, and raising specifically short plats from 4 to 9 units. So this fall and winter, your Planning Commission will be reviewing what the consultant for the Northeast Business District Plan has started working on. And of course, next year we will be kicking off the 2024 Comprehensive Plan update. So we are staying busy, and we're excited still about that work. So again, on behalf of your Planning Commission, we thank you for the opportunity to share tonight. That concludes my report.
Very good. Mr. Boykin, thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time and updating us. Any quick questions from council offhand? Councilmember Keel, was that a yes? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I don't have a question. I just want to say for myself, that's a long list of work that the Planning Commission is doing, and it's not light stuff. I mean, you guys are, really digging down and doing some heavy lifting, and I want to thank you all for your work. And if you wouldn't mind, be so kind, sirs, to convey my thanks to all the commissioners for the work that you're all doing. I mean, we can see it. I mean, I drive around the city and I see all these things popping up over the place, and I can see, examples of the work that you're doing, and I'm very thankful for it. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Keel. Excuse me, Councilmember Keel. And Mr. Boykin, very good report. And yes, indeed, just to echo our thanks for the hard work in there. And this is a key piece in some ways that we may be able to change the affordability in our community for key projects that can be just a little bit less expensive for starting homes or some other niche residential projects. But time will tell how the Commission wants to go with that, and we look forward to hearing about your recommendations when the time comes. Do you have any questions for us that we can respond to?
No questions, just wanted to affirm that we certainly are appreciative of where we are in the city and how the city has been really responsive in ways in which it really keeps the community character of University Place at the forefront, and has done so with grappling with some really difficult issues. And I think that has continued to be one more way in which people have, because of the service that you provide, see University Place as a wonderful destination and a distinguished city. So we really look forward to further recommendations, really enjoy this work, and just wanted to really underscore how important it is for us to be able to do that in this environment that you so diligently have set for us to work within. So thank you so much. Thank you all. Really appreciate your comments. We'll convey that to the Commission.
Councilmember Kleske, I believe, has a closing comment.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to state thank you so much for all of the Planning Commission's hard work, and you're taking the lead in the presentation to our City Council tonight. I was on the Planning Commission for a few years, and as was our Councilmember Belisi as well. And so we know how hard you guys work, because we were there 2 meetings a month, and what you guys do is very detail-oriented, and you have to be visionaries. You have to look where our city is going, what would be the values of our citizens living in that city at that time, and to look at it comprehensively, growth economically, business-wise, parks, aesthetics, all of those things, because, once it gets up to council and we vote on it, it's out there. It's like a big, huge experiment. See what happens, right? And we appreciate that circling back and making the necessary corrections and bringing it back up to council as well, so that we are aware, and then we can do the appropriate action. So, and I do once again wholeheartedly thank every one of you for doing the heavy lifting on that commission. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I was saying I appreciate you staying with us this evening and look forward for our next opportunity to chat. With that, though, I'm going to invite Michael Bruner, our chair for the Economic Development Commission, to come up and tell us how things are going with the Economic Development Commission.
Now batting second, Michael Bruner. Members of council, thank you for this opportunity on behalf of the entire Economic Development Advisory Commission to give you a brief report on how things have been going with us. We've been meeting virtually all year until last month, when we were finally cleared to meet in person, and we're currently meeting at First Financial Northwest Bank in their conference room. They've graciously lent us the use of that. And we're aiming to meet at other business locations throughout the city to not only expose us commissioners to the businesses and vice versa, but to also foster those relationships and create the connections between the business owners, managers, and the Development Commission. We are also accomplishing this by spotlighting a business at every meeting. We have welcomed owners of many of our new businesses to give a presentation on who they are, what their business does, what their business is all about, and allows another connection between the business community and the city. Finally, our main topic of conversation over the last few months has been the ARPA business assistance recommendation that council has assigned. We held an additional meeting in March just to have a fuller conversation about this topic because it's been pretty heavy for us. So discussion is progressing, and we will have our recommendation to council by the August 1st deadline. And that concludes my report.
Very good. Thank you. Nice to know you're on schedule. So always good news. Council, do you have any questions offhand? Councilmember, I've got Mr. Keel or Councilmember Keel up, and then yeah, there.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your report. Again, like with the other commissioner, I want to thank you and your fellow commissioners for all the work that you do, volunteering to do the work that you do for our city. It's vital for us, and we couldn't do what we need to do without your support. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure.
The question I have, and this is something I haven't worked with all of these guys yet, so it's kind of like something that we've got to put together as a council, but I always think about public safety as number one, economic development is number two in my mind, right? And I really love how the city is growing with its businesses, the town center and all the other places and things like that. But it just always strikes me that there may be some more the city could be doing, something different that would kind of maybe be another catalyst to kind of to grow business and attract business. I don't know what that answer is, but I know that there is something there, right? I mean, where people can be attracted and brought here. And so I'm just, right now it's just me musing. And I just want to put it out there and say for these next few months, whenever we start doing our planning, that's going to be one of the topics that I want to bring to my colleagues here to talk about what it is. You know, I don't know what it is, sure. But I think there's something that we need to continue to do, to always pay attention to growing business and attracting. I mean, I would love, I look at this blank space over here, you know, lot one. I would love for some corporation, you know, Fortune 500, you know, Fortune 1000, I don't care, you know, company that needs a regional office or maybe their corporate office, you know, here. I mean, when you think about schools, we think about our roads, we think about the citizens, we just think about our city in general. And I know that people are moving away from, you know, the high-rise, you know, downtown. I mean, I get a lot of that feedback in my role on Sound Transit. They're saying, no one's going downtown Seattle anymore. You know, everyone's, you know, remote or, you know, or off, you know, region. So there's something there, you know, that I like for us to dig into. And I want to talk more here, but just know that's coming. So,
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Keel. Council. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, thank you, of course, to you and the rest of the commissions, but I really wasn't aware, and I do appreciate you saying in your report about how you're interacting with our businesses. And I do appreciate that that's happening. That's always been a key for whether it be staff or our commissioners to be out there touching base with our business community on a regular basis. And I do want to encourage you to continue that effort. It's on?
It's on. Okay.
Yeah, to continue that effort. And so, but I would like to add that in your reports, if you need any types of support to enhance that you need council to help with, please bring it up to us, to Steve Sugg. And the other point would be is in your reports, if you can collect the highlights of the top needs out there and what businesses don't want government to do with them, that would be nice to hear. You're our ears, and out there, especially the way you're out there meeting with businesses. So that would be really nice to get to hear back from you on what you're hearing, good or bad.
Absolutely.
That's all beneficial. And then the last part was, excuse me a second. Oh, on your ARPA funds.
Yes.
Have you had a chance to talk with, there is a staff person, I don't remember her name, out of finance, that is the lead person for ARPA knowledge, distributions and all that. Have you spoken with anyone from?
Unless it's Ms. Metcalf, no, we have none.
Do you, Steve, Mr. Sugg, who is that person from finance that deals with that?
Councilmember, we have Director Leslie Blaisdell in finance that is the lead on ARPA from the finance department, and Becky Metcalf, of course, from economic development.
That was another person that was mentioned to me that when I talked with you and Matt.
We also the Grace O that works for Leslie. Yes.
Because that's who I was directed at. Said that she's the specialist in this. She's
Yes.
the one that's moving this and dealing with this. Have you talked with her?
No,
Have you had
we
a
have not.
presentation? I would really encourage for you to work with Steve or whoever's your liaison is with Steve, because supposedly she's the knowledgeable person that is dealing with this ARPA funds, and to leave her out of this picture about, because part of the answer is what restrictions are there and the recommendations, what can you recommend and what you can't recommend. I would hate, I shouldn't use that word, I'd be disappointed to see you bring something that then staff says, well, that's restricted.
Understood.
I mean, that wouldn't make any sense, right? So I would encourage you to meet with those staff people that actually have their hands on this, what happens with these funds, how can they be utilized or not, to better bring a solid recommendation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. And Councilmember McCluskey.
Right. Thank you, Mayor. I was wondering see, I don't have the green light when I press the speaker, and so I was wondering if you're going to notice. But you did.
Generally, I'm getting a notice here, but I'm not always
Okay.
sure of that. So.
Right, because I was looking at that too, wondering if you have the right, we're connecting. But we are connecting.
We're connected.
So I'm
Good.
very
I
happy
hope
about
to.
that. So, Mr. Gruner, thank you for your report tonight, and I want you to also thank the Economic Development Commission on behalf of the council, that we appreciate their work. And I'm just wondering, do you know if the 27th Business Group is still active and viable? Because I know it was really viable initially, and then it took a little hiatus, and then they were starting to reestablish themselves. So I wonder do you know about what's going on?
There was an attempt to reestablish several years ago, probably five years ago, that didn't really get that far off the ground.
That's too bad.
So I think right now it's just kind of in a holding pattern. That's all I can
Okay.
tell you about that right now.
All right, I appreciate that.
Sure.
And then also, as you go out and you talk to our businesses or you get information out, curbside appeal is really important to encouraging people to, obviously go into their businesses, but also it makes a statement about their business and our community.
Absolutely.
So to also, if they have a brick and mortar business, to ensure that, to remind them gently, about their, certain standards.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
I would really appreciate that, because as I peruse through the city, there are some businesses that could use a little bit of sprucing up. And I think that would help their business as well, as business equity and also how people perceive their business too, as the quality of the work that they do. I think it would be a win-win.
Agreed.
My last comment is that our former council member Grassi, towards the upcoming holidays, he likes to have UP light up, and so to encourage local businesses to do that. I think it will make University Place during the holiday season a fun place to, drive through or shop in or.
Absolutely agreed.
And it will honor our former council member too.
Definitely.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. And with that, Michael, thank you, and the rest, Mr. Karuner, thank you, and the rest of the commission for joining us, for the work you're doing and continuing on to support our efforts. So it's making a difference for us, and I appreciate that.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for this opportunity.
Take care. And let's see, that will bring us into our study session. So we're going to end our regular session and go into study session now. And up on that is Kevin Brusky and discussion of our fee schedule review. Ms. Brusky, how are you this evening? Are you all set?
All set, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Kevin Brusky with the Community and Economic Development Department. Here tonight for a second study session regarding evaluation of the city's development services fees. And I will try to go through this as quick as I can since we're a little behind schedule. After some feedback from the first study session, city staff has came back with some additional changes and recommendations regarding that. And I have a short PowerPoint that I can go through with some of the same slides that we presented last time, but I think since it was in April, I'd like to show those again on our fees. Thank you. So 2022 development services fees, and wanted to point out there's no proposals for any changes regarding development engineering fees, fire code fees, mechanical code fees, miscellaneous building fees, and plumbing fees. Proposed fee changes for under development services fees would be a proposed 5% increase to all land use fees. These are like short plats, variances, final plats, SEPA reviews. Also from feedback from the City Council after the last study session, looking at a 3-year step option to adopt the current International Code Council building valuation table by 2025. This would be an approximate 5% increase for building permit fees in 2023. Also with some changes in our codes, under our telecommunications codes, there's a new eligible facilities request permit that is now in our code. These are for modifications to existing cell towers. We're proposing a $200 fee for those, for that permit. Also a site plan review of $150 for a primary structure and $75 for accessory structures. This is relating to review of site plans for compliance with zoning regulations for these structures. Reasons to consider on these two fee adjustments. Building permit fees were last adjusted in 2006, and land use fees were last adjusted in 2009. Obviously, over that time, there's been an increase in home values, increase also in land values over that time. And so even with the proposed increase, overall, the cost of the building permits relating to the value or sale of a typical home in University Place will still be below the 2006 levels. So we're still looking at about a 33% reduction in the overall percent of the building permit fee compared to the sale price of a new home. In this table, just to kind of show a comparison to surrounding jurisdictions for building permit fees on the valuation table that they use. And what I wanted to just point out here is most of the jurisdictions, and this was talked about last time, our current fee that we, valuation table that we use from 2006 is a valuation of $106 for single family residential. That's kind of the most common valuation that is used for our building permits. Jurisdictions, just pulling a few examples, Kent, Lakewood, Linwood, Pierce County, Tacoma, they all use the current valuation table of the International Code Council, and that valuation table gets updated every year. And so these, most all of our surrounding jurisdictions have just adopted that table, and then it automatically updates every year. And that update, you know, it varies in amount every year, but you know, over the last, what I can tell over the last probably 5 to 10 years, it's maybe been roughly a 1% change every year. And for a comparison of surrounding fees, and this was just for a quick comparison of construction of a 2,500 square foot house. As you can see, our current fees for the building permit for a 2,500 square foot house would be $4,321. You can see we're still below Lakewood, Gig Harbor, Tacoma, well below Tacoma, Lakewood, Gig Harbor, and those the other jurisdictions that use the current International Code Council fee. Then we are under those as well, such as Pierce County. With the proposed going to phase in and using the 2015 International Code Council valuation table in 2023, that would increase our building permit fee for a 2,500 square foot home to $4,700. That'd still be below Lakewood, Gig Harbor, Pierce County, and Tacoma. After meeting with the council last time, we looked at the 3-year step option. And what this would be phasing in to going to the current ICC table in 2025. And then subsequent years after that, just using the current ICC table. And what that would look like would be in 2023, we would use the 2015 table. In 2024, we'd use the 2020 table. And then in 2025, we'd be on the current ICC table for valuations. And what that would look like would be in the increase as shown previously for a 2,500 square foot home in 2015 of about $250. Or I'm sorry, in 2023, an increase of about $200 for a permit for a 2,500 square foot home. And then in 2024, also another increase of about a little over $200 for a 2,500 square foot home. And finally, on land use fees, I wanted to just, some of the council members asked about approximate staff hours for reviews for these, for the proposed increase. Once again, land use fees have not been increased since 2009. And with the values of land going up, the overall cost for subdividing land has actually gone down as a percent of the value of the land. So a 5% increase on some of our more common land use fees would equate to a short plat. So if you're creating up to 4 lots, it would the short plat fee would increase by $344. Over 4 lots. Here, the increase for a subdivision, $782, $378 for an increase for a final plat. For the SEPA checklist review, a $68 increase. And then for a major and a minor variance, that would be $169 or $41. And then down here, I wanted to show the approximate staff hours that it takes to do these reviews on these land use decisions and processes. And based on an approximate, roughly an $80 an hour, that would include, averaging staff, salaries, benefits, some overhead. It's 102 hours roughly for a short plat review, which still is, costs staff time higher than what the short plat, new proposed short plat fee would be, and so forth down the line for subdivisions, 216 hours, 130 hours for final subdivisions, 20 hours for a SEPA checklist review, major variance is 34 hours and a minor variance is 20.5 hours. What I wanted to proposing to show here is that with the amount of hours, we are still charging less than what it costs the city on these particular fees. However, once again, when we look at fees, we kind of try to look at it kind of as a balance. If you try to charge way too much and get to maybe as close as you can to 100% cost recovery, that gets very difficult to do and can discourage redevelopment and people developing, adding onto their homes. If you charge too little on fees, then you're putting more burden on the general fund and the rest of the taxpayers of the city of University Place. So we try to kind of find a sweet spot in here of trying to collect enough money to cover as much as possible and provide the level of services that are needed regarding reviewing all of these fees. So with that concludes my kind of report on this. We're here to answer any questions, and then moving forward with input from the council, we would like to take this back for a council action at some point.
Okay, very good, Mr. Pruski. Thank you. If you stand by here for a second, we'll see if we have some questions. First off, council, we are running a little behind, but if we have questions we need answers, we should ask them. At the same time, if we're ready to move this item forward, then I think this is a chance to do that without having to take more time on the issue. Mr. Keel, or Councilmember Keel.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Kevin, thank you for your report. And I heard it the first time, and I dug into it a little bit, but didn't have the time that I needed to spend and wanted to spend on the topic. And so I read it in the packet, and then I wanted to hear your report, and I was listening tentatively today. And so I just want to say I've got a few questions. I won't take time to ask them tonight, but I would like to reach out to you sometime this week, and maybe we can just spend some time talking about the questions that I have.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyone else have questions? Assuming Mr. Keel has, gosh, I don't know why I'm having that issue. I don't usually. But Councilmember Keel has an opportunity to get the information he needs. Shall we? I think we're ready to move this on to the agenda at a future date. So, okay. All righty. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. All right. Thanks for being here. Enjoy your night. Let's move us on then to our parks and maintenance cost discussion, something we've had in the wings for a while, and it's a good night to get it done. So, and is that Jack Eklund who will be handling that issue for us?
Yep, that's me here. Jack Eklund, our Director of Engineering, and also our interim Public Works Director in Parks and a little everything these days. And if we could get, Amanda, if you could put up the PowerPoint I have. All right, so during the April council retreat, council requested staff bring back for study some further discussion regarding our parks maintenance needs and detailed list of deferred maintenance items, costs, and associated labor hours. You can find this detailed information in your council packet. I'm not going to go over these things in detail line by line, but I'd be certainly happy to answer any specific questions you may have at the end of my report. However, it does identify deferred maintenance hard cost need of just over $600,000, as well as a labor deficit of around 4,700 man hours. The cause of the deferred maintenance costs and labor deficit is due primarily to three factors, and that's a reduction of labor, expansion of our city park system, as well as increased park usage. If we could have the next slide, please. So prior to the recession, in 2007, let's see, do we still have that same slide up? If we could move. All right. In 2007, city employed 4 full-time parks maintenance workers. We also had 1 temporary summer hire park worker, which, if you look at it over a course of a year, would represent of about 1/3 of a full-time equivalent. And then we also had the benefit of a prison crew that we could get twice a month for park maintenance. And the total their hours, that actually, they equated to about a half of a full-time employee. So all in all, back then we had a total of full-time equivalents of 4.8 FTE for parks maintenance labor, which was sufficient for maintaining the park system that we had in place at the time. Now, currently, the city employs 2.5 full-time parks maintenance workers. We do still have get the one temporary summer hire worker at the third of a FTE, but we unfortunately no longer have access to the prison crew. And so our current total for our park maintenance labor hours are equivalent of about 2.8 full-time equivalents, which would be a reduction of about 2 full-time employees over what we had back before the recession in 2007. Next slide, please. So when we look at our expansion of our park system, in 2007, we had a good park system then. We owned 56 acres of park land, with 44 of those acres were developed. But as of today, we now have over 130 acres of parkland with over 80 of those acres developed. This represents a 130% increase in parkland, as well as an 81% increase in our developed park area. In addition, we've also added the responsibility for facility maintenance to our parks maintenance crews, which includes the grounds and buildings at the Civic Building, primarily floors 2 and 3, the police station, Market Square, and the Public Works Maintenance Shop. Next slide, please. So increased park usage we're looking at, and as our parks have been a popular place for our residents to enjoy, which is good. You know, as we've grown, so has the usage by the public. And you know, although having parks that are well enjoyed is a good problem to have, it also adds an increased workload for our maintenance staff. A good metric that could help illustrate the magnitude of this increased park usage is trash collection. Interestingly enough, so if we look at in 2007, we spent on average 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, picking up trash in our parks, which equaled about 600 hours per year. As of last year, this now has increased to over 5 hours a day, and we've expanded that to 7 days a week, which results in over 1,900 labor hours dedicated to trash pickup alone. So if you kind of correlate that to park usage, then that indicates over a 200% increase in park usage since 2007, which not only has impacts for trash collection, but also wear and tear and general maintenance as well. Then next slide, if I have one. I guess go back to the first one, I guess. The last one's fine. So anyway, our reduced labor force, expansion of our parks, and as well as our increased park usage has greatly limited our ability to keep up with the maintenance demands of our park system. Now, as we discussed during this year's council retreat, 2 additional staff positions will be requested as part of the 2023-2024 budget. Now, this won't fully fill our maintenance labor need, but it does get us about 80% there, and it will go a long way. So we're hopeful we'll be able to make this work in the upcoming budget. But with that, it concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have and also go into any detail you would like to see.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hecklin, and appreciate that. I had a couple of quick questions, just kind of factual things, and then I think council members may have a question or 3. One of the questions I had is, we're still using contract services for mowing most of our parks, particularly our larger parks. Is that correct?
Yes, most of it. Some of our smaller areas we mow, and we do mowing in the winter ourselves. But in the summer and spring and so forth, we have the contract. We are a little nervous. Our maintenance landscape maintenance contract is due. We have to rebid it out this year, so next year it's going to come back out. I know the low bidder last time was quite a bit lower than the next high fellow up. And so we are a little nervous about what the prices will come back with that, but we'll know more. We're currently out to ad for that as well. So we'll know in about 2-3 weeks of where that's going to stand. So that'll help factor in for the budget.
And 4 regular park maintenance workers. Previously, I've forgotten the year that you mentioned, but it's 2006 or something like that.
Yeah, 2007.
Okay. Were we using contract mowing then as well in a similar?
We were, yeah.
And then the city added a couple of public works employees. I think it was the last budget cycle, based on some of our transportation improvement district revenues, I believe, in order to help with street maintenance. Mm-hmm.
And actually, we didn't add any folks last year. We just filled positions that were vacant last year. So we actually, for street maintenance, we haven't filled any positions since we cut folks back in 2007 there either.
Count didn't increase. We just filled vacant slots that were previously authorized.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. Just wanted to get that clear in my mind. And with that, Councilmember Wood is up, followed by Councilmember McCluskey, and then by Councilmember Fleming. Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. What is the approximate annual cost of one FTE for parks maintenance?
I think it's typically looked at around $100,000. Probably is when you look at benefits and all that sort of thing. That's the kind of the rule of thumb, plus or minus. I think we can get certainly a more specific number for you guys, but that's in the ballpark.
Okay. Councilmember McCluskey.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jack, for a very thorough report. It's pretty much what I expected it to be, since I've noticed our parks have grown not only in usage, but also in space, which I also adds value to our city as well. We need a place to recreate, especially as we increase our population. This report that you have, so there's 2 increase in staffing that you're going to request in the next budget cycle. Are you also going to request some of the maintenance upgrades that you have mentioned in your report on different maintenance and project costs as well?
Yeah. Well, we definitely will put in some of those. We don't think we'll be able to financially swing all the 600,000 in this cycle, but we will be. We're hoping to get close to half of that. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, because there's certain things that you probably have a prioritization list, right, of things that are important to get to first, and then you work on down the list, right? Okay. There's new roofs on the dugout at Cirque Park. I would like to see that field of use, because I have concerns that it's not being used as much as it should be used. And so to put in 15 grand on the roof repairs for the dugouts and some of these other things, I'd like to note the usage prior to putting in, the thousands of dollars in those repairs and maintenance. And also, if they're not getting the use that we have anticipated, I would like to know why not, and maybe how we can encourage by marketing to get more use and field rentals, especially at Cirque Park. And okay, so
we certainly can look into that. A lot of our usage too is with the rentals certainly dropped off with some of the COVID restrictions and so forth. So we hope to see a rebound in that, but we definitely will get back to you on that information.
All right, great. And I would like to see the prioritization list, just because I am curious, sort. And I would like to see how you think about what is prioritized over some of the other projects on here too. And my last comment is some of the park damage and the infrastructure repairs. Have you seen any uptick in park vandalism in the last few years?
Yeah, we certainly have, especially wire theft has been a huge problem for us. And if you on the list we have, like right now we have wire theft repairs at Cirque Park for $25,000. It's been which hit us. That's why half the lights out there don't work. And so it's been a huge issue for us. Also, general vandalism, graffiti, all that has also added a toll and seemed to be increased. But yeah, it's tough.
Have a aggregate list of what that's costing us?
So like some of the stuff is on here. The graffiti I didn't put on there because this list is specific for our deferred maintenance. And so we have made graffiti a priority. And so we haven't, because it seems to, if you let it sit, it'll propagate. And so that's been something we're doing. So that's not a deferred item, but we certainly could identify that and get that information for you as well.
Okay, yeah, I would like that. I have noticed an uptick in graffiti in some places. Yeah, and I agree with you. Don't let it sit too long. Take care of it. All right, that's all my questions for you. Thank you, Jack, for your great report.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to Councilmember Fleming. And Jack, is it possible for you to turn your camera on, or is that a problem for your location?
I can. I was a little nervous it's gonna cut out, but I'll try it on.
No, let's there's a reason for it not being on. That's fine. We'd rather talk to you if we have to. We have to make a choice. Yeah.
It's the pulsating circle.
Yeah.
From my perspective, it just tells me you still have a heartbeat.
Yeah.
That's a doctor in me.
I know. Jack, thank you so much for the report and the updates. Certainly along the lines of what we were looking for. I've got a couple of quick questions. And one is, with the continued build-out road improvements we're doing in the city and the streetscapes that are being added to it, I didn't hear what the impact of that is on the current program or what the future impact would be. So if you might take a moment to elaborate on that. The second question I had is, while we're looking at FTEs to try to fill staffing shortages, any thoughts given to, I know in the past we've done this, but any thoughts given presently to perhaps use of the summer hires just to cover the peak times in which the parks are being used during the spring and summer times, a little bit into the fall? And then my last request is the same as Councilmember McCluskey's, is to take a look at that prioritization list. How's that?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, it's good. So kind of start with one of the things with the streetscape and landscaping, that's been, and we certainly can follow up with that. That's more of an impact to our road crew though. So that wasn't part of this review, but we certainly can come back with, we have a similar, we do have similar problems with parks as, streets as parks as well, where we have less folks and more things to do certainly, but it does add, there's a value that the landscaping and the streetscapes certainly have for our community and for the livability, but it also has a maintenance toll for sure. And then on the was definitely will bring back the prioritization list for you guys to look at. And the summer hire, we definitely, that's one of our strategies to look at where we can kind of maximize the summer hires for kind of the more intense things. The challenge with summer hires though is they're generally, a lot of them are college kids and new to that type of work. And so you don't have, you have a lot of eager labor and strong backs, but you may not have the experience of some of the more technical things. But we definitely like the idea of trying to maximize the summer labor, summer hires to be able to stretch that, fill those needs as much as we can, because they are certainly more cost effective than from that standpoint.
Yeah, Jack, and I agree with the comment regarding experience, but I think there's something to be said also on the positions that probably have least technical skills need, but certainly adds to the enhancement of the parks. I'll tell you, as myself as a kid working as a summer hire on a parks maintenance crew was pretty good. Not only do you learn a good work ethic out of it, but you get some good experience in there, whether you're cutting the lawn or trimming bushes or picking up garbage. There's something to be said, but on the flip side of that, there's a cost savings also to the city where we're getting a benefit at a reduced cost. So just offer that up for consideration as you're looking at your options there.
Yes, certainly. It sounds good.
Councilmember Fleming, is that it? Or did you
That is, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you, Councilmember. And Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa.
Thank you. I was just use this one here, Mayor. I'm not sure if this is for you, Jack, but you certainly can chime in the answer. But I think this is more toward our city manager and the mayor, and that is the process. Whatever decision is or recommendation, I should say, that'll be finalized by staff. I'm sure that if we have another study session, it will be based on additional information, maybe some adjustments on needs and that, like Councilmember McCluskey mentioned, as far as other needs. I think that at the end of the day, when this is a final recommendation that we're satisfied with on the information, is the process for us to vote. I don't see us voting for this, and I heard, well, anytime soon, I heard that this is for the next budget. I would assume that it's for the 24, 25. 23, 24. Okay. And so, and we're going to be talking about that later on this year. So what normally happens is the city manager proposes his budget that includes additional staff or other needs that he sees, that he prioritizes. Because the only the thing I don't know, I mean, we can only, at least I should say, I can only say if this becomes a high priority for Mr. Sugg, among all his needs to satisfy the community as well as the council's needs, is that he says we really need this. He puts this as a high priority for budgeting, and he's going to have to cut something off because usually something gets cut off. So I assume that our nodding of yes to Jack and staff would be that this is reasonable. It'd be nice to see it in the budget in the future, but at the end of the day, I don't see us voting on this except when the budget comes up and we vote at the budget cycle, and that's only if the city manager puts it in his budget, correct?
So if I
just want to be clear about process, because
in general, that's my understanding of the process. Mr. Sugg, do you have something different?
Budget preparation is always a balancing act, and we're going through that process now through the month of August, and we'll be finalizing it in September, submitting the budget first meeting in October to the council. It will be our first study session. So we're just asking department heads, and Jack being one of the department heads, to bring forward information so that we can put all of the needs together, both the existing and proposed needs, and then balance it, and then look what resources we have to fund those needs. So that process is underway. Stay tuned. We'll be having a lot more discussion with the council about this.
So that's going to be this whole effort is going to be put back into your process of bringing forth to the council.
It is, yes.
Because
it's not done in isolation.
And this is fine. I'm not, but it's not the normal process. Okay. It's not the normal process by which you bring staff needs. We don't go and go into study sessions and all your staffing needs to then go through budget. So I see this as being a separate item. I'd like to know why it was taken out of process that normally is done. So it's just for me to understand this, and if it's going to continue, if it's going to be put back into the process the way it should be. And if it's not, what's happening here? Thank you.
All right, and so I believe I have some of the answers to that question. I get the sense Councilmember McCluskey would like to share some information on that too. So, yeah, just a moment. Let me get you on there. So, are you on? I thought I put you on.
Not red. Ooh, I am red now.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, it's just, this has been almost, gosh, a year before it came before the council for discussion. So it was a legislative proposal from Councilmember Fleming and myself, because I use the parks quite a bit, and I noticed that there was maintenance issues that was being deferred, and also other issues that I was noting as well. I had a long conversation with Mr. Cooper at the time, and he had a presentation that he was going to bring to the city council, but Councilmember Fleming could not attend, and so we deferred it, and now it's here. And now it's close to a budget cycle. And you're correct, Mayor Pro Tem, that would be the appropriate way to do it. But at that time, I was looking for a budget adjustment to the city council.
That would make
And so that is where I had the legislative proposal. However, since it's so close to that budget cycle, I'm not really looking for a budget adjustment at this point in time. I don't know about Councilmember Fleming, because it's kind of a moot point, right? So we're going to have that comprehensive discussion with this. And so I was really excited that Mr. Eklund had, and I want you guys to keep it, because what he gave you, because it's extremely detailed, and it explains just how far we have grown and how far we've leveraged our funding to this current state. But the rubber band has stretched and it's broken. And so we need to look at, as my case in point, the Veterans Plaza. We have a certain aesthetic quality that all of our city council members and our public has when they come into the park. It has to be inviting, and if it's not maintained, it has it's not perceived as safe, and other issues can evolve. The more you touch things, the better it becomes. So that, in essence, is kind of the history of this. And I know it wasn't presented as a legislative proposal this evening, but it's sort of morphed.
So if I may, Mayor and Councilmember McCluskey, I have a follow-up on that. That's one.
So do I.
Okay, go right ahead, and I'll go
all
after
right.
you, please.
But did we? Are you all right? Are you?
Yeah, I'm.
Okay. So yeah, just from my perspective, essentially tonight we have a peek at what a bit of a budget proposal. And what the justification is. It's in response to a legislative proposal from, we'll say, a year ago that's been hanging fire for a variety of reasons. So we'll see. Ultimately, though, it is also in the top 5 in our council priorities as they were passed this evening. And that, I think, has it actually coming back to us as opposed to Mr. Sugg, so that we can prioritize it. The way we've asked this budget cycle to be done is for the staff to propose projects that address our priorities, and then we get to sit down and weed through them. And I have every expectation that it's going to cost more than we have to address all of those priorities. So, yeah, but we need to look at them collectively in order to understand which comes first. And so that's I think where we're headed with this, and that's likely to be September. So.
You answered my question there.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Great. Thank you. Well, folks, we're getting close to the end here. So I think, though, yeah, we managed to manufacture a few minutes in the course of the meeting, and it's not bad. But mainly, it's been a big meeting and a lot done here, and some things for our voters to consider in the months to come. I think at this point, I'm ready to bring the evening to an end. And Councilmember McCluskey.
I'm sorry, but I know. Thank you, Mayor. I know you and I had discussed the state of the grass at the current apple orchard, and I, as you, are curious to know about the contractor and how often that the lawn gets mowed and that gets taken care of, because I think that is what I call the canary in the cave, maybe indication on how that contractor is taking care of our other parks as well. So I just would like a report back, as I'm sure the mayor would too. Thank you.
So I have had a chance to share some information, and Mr. Suck has given me some information, and we'll have a chance to hear further about that, I think, in the future. Yeah, I just wasn't going to do it right now, but you bet, no problem. But yeah. Any case, so I think we should be good there. Anything else before we wrap this one up? So,
if I may.
Sure.
Real quick. I failed to just, which I think is integral to our understanding about our PCRC projects that were approved in our last PCRC meeting that Denise was in. As I spoke to the executive director, Josh, in this past week, I didn't understand. When that got approved, I thought it was a done deal. Well, it actually goes to the Transportation Board, PSRC's Transportation Board, which they just met last Wednesday while I was there waiting for Josh. And they walked out and they saw me, oh, you're from UP, we just approved your projects. So, but that being said, they approved the projects to be recommended to the Executive Board, which then they meet on the 28th. I assume that's going to be approved on the 28th, but it's not over with yet, because after that is a public notification. And after that public notification, that's when it's finalized for us to say we have that money or those grants. So just to kind of follow through with how that flows. Thank you, Mayor.
Been a good step forward. All right, thank you. And I think hearing about the potential for, potential for some new construction money for streets is very good. We're going to call this meeting over. Have a great night, and thank you.
But wait.